Hey everybody, I'm coming to you from my new home office. So we've talked about what it feels like versus what it is, right? At the beginning of the pandemic, I recorded a video talking about it feels like 2008, but it's really 2001. That was at the beginning of the pandemic. That was at the end of March. How many things have changed since then? What hasn't changed since then? Let's be honest. So now let's talk about what it feels like versus what it really is. Before we said it feels like we're in 2008, but we're really in 2001. Now I'm telling you that if you're out there actively searching for homes, it feels like 2005 and 2006. And that in and of itself is enough to give anybody a serious case of anxiety. Why? Because 2005, 2006 is when appraisals were being completely thrown to the wind. Home prices were going up with no sign of stopping. It was not a good time in real estate. And right now there are literally no homes on the market. None. Let's just say it. There aren't any homes on the market. So therefore, everything is in multiple offers. I just had someone tell me that 18 offers, 11 offers on a crappy little townhouse. I mean, seriously, I'm being honest. It feels like 2005. It feels like 2006. And if you're worried, let me bring you back down. We're not in a 2005, 2006 situation where subprime loans are definitely more prevalent and people are taking equity out of their homes, getting these appraisals that are sky high and just buying up the entire world. I think that all of us can look around and see that right now people aren't being ridiculous with their spending. We are definitely tightening our belt buckles and trying to make things work. So therefore, we are not in a 2005, 2006 scenario, but it feels like it. Why does it feel like that? There aren't any deals in real estate right now. So if you're an investor right now, it's hard because there's not a whole lot of things going on in the flip market where you're like, oh yeah, I can buy that for a really low price. No, because the banks prefer owner occupancy. And let's say the price is, $40,000 before market value, everybody just starts throwing in their bids and all of a sudden you're at market value, if not a little bit above, and then you got to wait for the appraisal to come in. And really there aren't any deals out there. I'm very sorry. But what's the good news? If you are a regular person, AKA just somebody who wants to get into a home, it's still very possible and really awesome to get into a home. I've seen a lot of realtors post a lot of statistics, and honestly, as soon as I hear numbers, I tend to zone out. So let me just tell you, showing activity is up 50% from last year. I don't know why, and I don't know how to describe it, but all of a sudden, I guess everybody being stuck in their homes just realized how unsatisfactory their living conditions were, and now all of a sudden, everybody wants to buy a house. So that's both good news and bad news. It's good news because that means that the real estate market is still going strong. There's no signs of stopping. It's bad news because we don't have the inventory to support the buyers. Do you hear me? It's supply and demand. So therefore, if we have a whole lot of demand, but we don't have the supply, the good news is that the lending standards and the not subprime mortgage industry is allowing us to not get into a 2005, 2006 situation. I'm only going to throw one more statistic out at you, and that is between the spring of last year and spring of this year, that homes prices rose at the exact national average for the past 30 to 40 years. So although we're in these multiple offer situations, it's not about sending the price all the way through the roof and slashing the appraisal contingency. It ain't about that. It's about closing costs, it's about inspections, it's about closing dates, it's about tightening up your offer in all the little ways and not just going completely balls to the wall, totally ham, and completely putting the mortgage industry in the trash. That's just not possible, and thankfully that's what's keeping a firm cap on all the craziness that's happening in the real estate industry right now. So let's recap. Although the market is insanely competitive and it might feel like a 2005, 2006 with all the offers and all the people just throwing in and these multiple offers going sky high, really there's a lot of safeguards to keep in place that we are not in another 2008 situation, 2005, 2006 into the bubble that's going to lead us into a crash. Everything is still going steady. The real problem is the lack of inventory. If we had been in a normal inventory year, this wouldn't have been such a situation. But 2020 was already going to be on track as a low inventory year historically. Add in COVID, and we have a real situation on our hands. What does that mean for you as a buyer or a seller? If you're a buyer, just keep persisting, because you're not going to get accepted on your first offer. You're not going to get accepted on your second offer. You are going to have to really, really dig in. And if you want to be a homeowner, you're going to have to make that possible for yourself as well. If you're a seller or you're thinking about selling, now is the time. Spring market got pushed to summer. So now the summer market is what was supposed to be happening in the spring. Everything is getting bumped a season. You still have a ton of time to get your house sold. And I really, really would encourage it. And even if you're like, hey, this is my make me move price, like for this amount of money, I would consider actually leaving my house. I bet you that I can find you a buyer, and we don't even have to put your house on the market. We don't even have to show it. We don't have to go through any of that stuff. Why? The inventory situation is dire right now. I pride myself on keeping my fingers on the pulse of the national real estate industry. I watch lots of webinars every single week to make sure that I know what's going on in the market, not just hyper locally, but also nationally. I do fully believe that by the beginning to middle of 2021, we will pull out of this situation. And I'm not talking about COVID, and I'm not talking about the global economy. I'm talking about real estate specific, getting out of this horrible inventory situation. But the only person that can change it is you, and that is by listing your home. If you've had any thoughts, I really, really encourage you to reach out to me. Even if we decide, hey, you can't move on because you don't have enough equity, you can't move on because of X, Y, and Z, because I don't have anywhere to go, because blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. If the only thing that's stopping you from selling your home is the uncertainty of it being on the market, then that uncertainty is completely extinguished. I can give you multiple examples if you would like to, but I mean, the fact that I've had 25 showings on one of my homes in less than 24 hours, and we have 3 offers, and by the time I finish recording this, I assume we will have quite a few more in my inbox. I think that that's enough evidence to show you that this real estate market is really hot without being too hot, if you know what I'm saying, aka 2005, aka 2006. Next week, I'll have a definitely more updated view of the market, but for right now, that's what's happening nationally. We can talk hyper locally, Frederick, Montgomery County, we can talk about Maryland in general, but please just make sure that you don't start freaking out about property values, because all of the safeguards are in place for us to stay on track and to not have a crash. But right now, it's dire straits. So put your house on the market. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. I'm always available, and I am super passionate about selling homes. Thanks, everybody.